Welcome to Career Journey podcast. I got connected with Nick on Twitter. I saw he's doing a bunch of the courses and mentorship for programmers. I thought it's a perfect match. Let's bring what Nick offer to the people and then your stories and how you manage your day. So that's what I wanted to cover. With that, over to you, Nick.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a software engineer. I've been developing software for over 10 years, worked as a architect and engineering lead across several different industries in finance, HR, healthcare. And along the way, I've worked with a lot of junior developers, growing developers. I myself was a growing developer, surrounded by other developers who were growing. And I found I had a knack for helping people build the confidence and skills they needed to progress in their career to where they felt comfortable working as a software developer. A lot of developers experience imposter syndrome. They feel like they're not contributing to the team or to the company. And they need help understanding the business aspects of software development so that they can see that value that they actually provide. So how do I help developers now? I have a mentorship program where I work one-on-one with developers, people who are learning to code, people who are searching for jobs or hoping to start freelancing careers, trying to find clients. And I work with them through the different challenges that presents. There's a lot of material out there on the internet. A lot of developers, you can study online for free everything that you need in order to become a programmer, but information overload becomes a factor and you're not sure which resources you ought to focus on. You get stuck in a particular way and there's no one to reach out to help you get through it or to understand whether it actually needs to be gotten through. Like there's a lot of different variation and paths into software development. So one of the questions you asked was, what type of software developers do I help? I help all types of software developers. Like I mentioned, my background is I've been in a lot of different types of companies. I've worked with a lot of different types of technology. I've been in web development. I've done game development. I've done Android and iOS app development, desktop and server software. I've been across the board. And one of the things that I like to do as someone in this space of helping people learn to code is make people aware of the options that are available to them. A lot of people assume web development, especially self-taught developers, they assume web development or they assume Python and data science. Those are great career paths, but there are a lot of options available to you. So you can explore these different types of jobs, these different type of roles, and find what best fits for you. And I can help you build a custom curriculum to study just what you need in order to get into a job or to help find your first clients with that particular skill set. It's been really fun. I've been doing this for about a year now, just about a year, and meeting lots of different kinds of people in a lot of different backgrounds all over the world, internationally, in India, Africa, Europe, the US, Canada, just a lot of different people all over the world with different scenarios, different things that they want, different types of skills that they are interested in learning, and just helping them move forward in the directions that they want to go in.
So Nick, one thing that I guess I missed that from the reading from profile and your website that you are still working at. Mind me asking, where do you work and what are the current technology that you're using?
I currently work in contracting, freelancing sort of way. So I have a couple clients that I help write code for. Primarily my tech stack is .NET and SQL Server.
High five.
Yeah, it's a great tech stack. I really enjoy it. So that's my current forte, but I also have a lot of experience in PHP and MySQL and JavaScript and Node.js and all these different web development technologies. I also have a lot of experience in Python and Android development. I have dabbled in some game development in C++ and other different technologies. There's a lot of modern development engines for game development that are really interesting. So yeah, my experience is a bit all over the place, but currently I'd say my forte is in .NET.
And you have 18 years total, right? About 18 years?
It's just 10.
So for 10 years, that's a lot.
I get around. Yeah. It's like you mentioned before the call today that you like telling stories of people whose careers have winded around and aren't quite sure what direction they want to take, and that's been my story. I'm dabbling in everything. I'm taste testing all these different things, and I've gained so much knowledge that I found that now I really want to help other people explore and and find what their specific space is, what they would most enjoy doing.
So you have never done a 9-to-5 job, or have you done a 9-to-5 job and then switched to contracting and freelancing?
Yeah, so I started. I'll go my educational background and sort of how all this got started.
Yeah, let's cover that too.
So I started actually in high school learning to write code. I always, as a kid, I'd really enjoyed video games. As a kid, I was studying how they worked and taking them apart and learning all the different hacks and things that can go on in a video game. And when I got into high school, I was initially set on becoming a musician, and I decided that it wasn't quite the lifestyle that I was looking for. So I remembered my passion for gaming and software technology, and I started learning to code through an application called Alice. And this was a tool developed by an MIT professor Carnegie Mellon. His name was Randy Posh, and he has a really great story if you haven't heard of him. He's worth going to check out. But he developed this application called Alice that teaches kids and college students how to write code, but also to build animations and build 3D models and things of this nature. I really enjoyed that, and that sort of sparked off my studying all the different software development languages. I studied C, I studied C++, and Python. I decided to go to community college at my local community college, studied computer science there, found a knack for tutoring and mentoring other students. I was the type to stay up all night reading through the back chapters of the textbooks just because I was enjoying it so much, chapters we wouldn't actually cover in class. And a lot of people enjoyed working with me, like helping them get caught up on the different aspects of object-oriented programming and these different things. So I went to college to study software development, and I eventually moved from community college to university to earn my 4-year bachelor's degree. And my experience at university was very rocky. I got started and found it was very challenging. There were a lot of different courses that didn't apply directly to software development. I was very naturally good at software development, and I was helping lots of different people. And then I got stuck in some courses that were not my forte at all, and they became a barrier to me actually finishing my degree.
Because as part of the bachelor degree, you have to do all those.
Exactly. Yeah. There were some requirements for the degree that were fairly difficult for me, and as I transitioned from community to university, at the same time, I landed myself an internship at a web development company, a very small company with about 4 developers total. And I worked my way up the ranks there at the company from an unpaid intern up to senior web architect by the time I was done with the company. And it was very interesting times those days. I was studying on and off at university. I had run into some trouble with some courses and had to take a break from school for a semester or two. I would go in full-time for work. And then after a year or so, I decided I was going to tackle it again and go back into university and go for the courses. And at this point, I had developed a reputation with the web development company to the point where I'd actually had a key to the office building. And I would essentially go back and forth between the office building and classes to get my work done that I needed to get done, but also get the schoolwork that I needed to get done. So that was very busy, very chaotic times. I finished my bachelor's degree at university finally after a total of 8 years from start to finish. It took 8 years to finish the degree. And at that point, I started looking for, a little bit higher pay work. I had a wife, we were planning kids soon. And so we were looking for a little bit better work environment. I ended up landing a full-time job at a HR and payroll software company. They developed they primarily developed tax assistance software. So they would build software that could help manage and automate business tax calculations, and manage filing forms to the governments. And they had a very wide suite of software to help collect data from employees that were necessary to populate tax forms, and then automatically send those tax forms to the relevant government agencies. And very, very elaborate, very complex processes. Had a lot of fun working there. Worked my way up to an engineering lead there at the company.
Okay.
Worked in every single team at the company. I like bouncing around. So the first team I worked with, I grew from a developer to eventually leading that team. And then I was asked to bring my services over to a new team who was struggling a bit. And so I took my perspective there, started working with junior developers and figuring out what the core problems were with the product itself, the actual software, and the team dynamics and so forth. As I ended up learning a lot from that experience of switching around between teams and figuring out all kinds of different personalities and how they fit together, and how you can sort of guide people to getting results from a business, from a professional perspective, but also like a personal perspective, like feeling like you did good work during the day. Right. And so from there, I sort of got around and made my mark on all the different pieces of the company, and decided I was going to go out and take a big challenge for myself. I felt like I'd reached a ceiling there at the company. And so I ended up working with a coach to figure out what my next step would be, because I had no idea. I didn't know, I was very well respected at this company, and a lot of the people I were talking to, a lot of my friends at the company were like, "You're crazy to go anywhere else. Like this is the perfect position for you. Everyone, you're very well respected, and you're very well positioned to do big here." But I felt like I had some bigger challenge to face. So I ended up working with a coach and finding cancer research as a topic of interest. And I actually spent a year while still working with the HR and payroll finance company studying cancer research. I eventually transitioned out to part-time with the company while I continued to study cancer research and try to find an angle for me to contribute to cancer research and cancer drug development. I ended up finding work with a healthcare company who had some experience improving clinical trials. They were working on technology, advanced AIs, and advanced data analytics software to help improve the process of finding candidates for clinical trial drugs.
When was this? When was this company?
It was about a year and a half ago.
Okay. So recently, because you said AI and all.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely AI involved with the company. A lot of raw data analytics, a lot of big data. Processing data from lots of different sources and combining it and putting it in a way that can be processed into meaningful analytics is a big part of what the company does. And sort of I was working with that company for a while, and so I was working with that company for a bit, and at the same time I had got the itch to sort of test my merit at starting my own business. Okay. And so I started working with a couple different companies in a contracting, freelancing capacity, just helping them make progress on their development, help augment their development teams, and just raw software development, nothing too crazy. I found myself missing, because I was now working as a freelancer. I was working alone. I was working sort of directly on software all day, not really working with a ton of people, not really in a leadership capacity or really even in a team capacity. It was very lonely being a freelancer. So I decided to start building a community and start teaching software development and start teaching the business of software development. And I wasn't sure exactly which direction I was going. Am I going to work with new developers and become sort of a teacher, mentor? Am I going to start a boot camp, or am I going to start training programs? And effectively, I'm still at a point where I'm exploring those different concepts.
Okay.
I've mentored a lot of people, paid and free, to different capacities, helping developers build a curriculum for what they want to do with their careers. I really enjoyed working with one particular student who was really interested in site reliability engineering. This is something that I hadn't really deeply explored myself, the field of DevOps and SREs. And so I had to learn a bit to be able to help her move forward in the direction that she wanted to go. So that was a particularly interesting student. And I also ended up working with a student who suffered from a pretty severe memory loss condition. The student had a lot of great technical skill, and they really wanted to start a freelancing business. They wanted to do software development for companies as a freelancer. And so that was just a really interesting person to get to know and to help move forward with the different challenges that they have to becoming productive and reaching their goal of becoming a software developer. And so to summarize the initial question, I think sort of the winding career, how did I get started here and how did I come up to where I am? I always knew I enjoyed software development, and from a young age, I felt like I had a good knack for it. I've always sort of been good at mentoring and teaching, and I feel like my strong suit is I'm a great listener. I can help listen to your story and advise ways to sort of overcome challenges, or sometimes people just need someone to listen to. They don't really need a solution. And now I've gone all over the place. I've worked in all kinds of different technologies, all kinds of different companies, all kinds of different capacities. And I've got a lot of experience in a wide range of things. And so I feel like I can use that sort of raw skill that I have, that I feel like it comes naturally to me, is being someone who can mentor and teach and train. And my goal now is to sort of make a career of that. That's the direction I'm moving in currently.
That's perfect. So thank you so much for sharing this. This is the part that I love about this Career Journey podcast, that it's just 20 minutes that we are talking, and I know a lot about you and your inspiring journey. I have a page full of notes, right? Wow. So you, when you was in high school, game development, then community college, then university, then a internship that you worked so hard that they gave you a full-time job, then senior, then the keys of the building. And then you talk about a coach. I missed that you hired a coach, or you met a coach?
I hired a coach at the time that I was working with the HR and finance company, because I was doing so well at the company and I was feeling a little stuck. Like I feel like I didn't know which direction I was going. I feel like I wasn't reaching my potential. So I ended up working with a coach for about a year to sort of discover cancer research as an avenue of interest for me to pursue. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's a paid kind of engagement with that coach?
It was, yes. Yeah.
Coach are costly, but really helpful. I always promote that. And there are 3 types of engagement that you can do with a coach. So coach, mentors, and then counselor. And they all are amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
So you went there, and then you had this your clinical trial, and then you started your freelancing thing. And it's fascinating that about that 10 years mark, I also started a part-time thing. So I will share quickly my story that I started in 2000, and then in 2010, by then I was working with few clients as like some part-time work. And then one of my clients said, I'm working with this company who are not delivering. Would you like to take that job and you do it? And what for that, I have to kind of hire people. So I did. I hired three offshore web developer and then set up the whole engagement, whole workflow and everything. A workflow is in how these offshore people will set up their computer to source control, to work, Jira and all. It's complete process, and we run it for like 10 years. But then I couldn't take it to the next level. And I think that's something that I have to reflect too often now, that I was too afraid that if I make it too big, what will happen to my full-time job? Because I love my full-time job. I get so much experience. And now this is something completely new for last 1 year. I mean, I've been writing for 4 years, but last 1 year is magical. After joining Ship 30 for 30, and I get the same kind of feeling that this will become very big, and that feeling of something that what if I have to leave the job? But I think this time I will be ready. Let's see. All right, so one more follow-up question on your journey.
Yes.
So basically after the freelancing, you started helping people, and you mentioned twice that you build curriculum for the developer based on their need. What do you mean by that? And do you also create the content for those custom curriculum?
Right. So I tend to work with people who have some people have an idea of what they want to do, what kind of software they want to build, what kind of companies they want to work for. And in those cases, I can go research the open job postings for those companies, the open job postings for those types of roles. And I can see the skills that are necessary for those particular positions. Then I can also take what I know about that person, what skills they already have, what skills they need to fill the gap between where they are and where they need to be in order to successfully apply to a job of that caliber. And I look at that gap and I find content. For the most part, I find content that will help that person fill that gap, and I help them through filling those gaps. There are some cases where I don't find resources that are quality enough to fill that gap, and I will go, even if I'm not an expert in the language, I will go study it myself, and I will go find what I need to know so that I can build the content in order to help them move through. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it's very intensive. I really enjoy just learning everything. So it's a benefit to me, but it's also I like to think of it as a last mile approach. I don't know if you're familiar with mail service. So there's 80% of the mail coming from a post office, is very traditional, very easy to get out. But there are homes, there are neighborhoods that are very out in the woods, they're very distant, they're very difficult to get to. So there are actually pop-up companies that will help the post office take the mail from a point where it's cost efficient for a post office to get to, and this last mile company will take that mail from that point out to the more difficult place to get to. So I consider myself something like that. Like, there are so many resources out there for someone to become a software developer. There's so many free training. There's so many free training programs. There's so many boot camps that exist today. There's so many online courses and training programs. If you want to go buy a course or a training program to go learn a skill, you can do that.
Yeah.
The gap that I'm filling is people who aren't sure what they need, who aren't sure where they're going necessarily, or people who do have an idea of where they want to go, but they don't know how to get there. And there's not really a course or a training program or a boot camp that's going to help someone figure out where they're trying to go exactly. That's where the mentorship program that I offer comes in. Is very personalized. It's very one-on-one. It's me and the student, and we talk through what kind of developer do they want to be, what kind of company do they want to work for, and we avoid any kind of fluff or unnecessary content or any kind of burden on that person to get to the skill sets that they need in order to become the developer that they'd like to be.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that entire process. That's amazing. And I think whoever will watch get a clear idea of what this means to them. One thing that I didn't see on your website or your profile, the pricing information. Now I guess I understand why it was that way, because you're giving the custom kind of plan for each person. It's not an online course that you can just buy and it's same for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So the mentorship training program is a very customized pricing based on the demand that each client needs, that each student needs. Some students need very hands-on assistance. Especially at the start, they've got to find a training, like we've got to understand what type of skills they want to build. We've got to build the curriculum. We've got to find the content to help them get the skills that they need. And sometimes they need content that doesn't exist, and that's a whole different layer of assistance. And so the way that I price the program is just based on the amount of need that a particular student needs to get to where they're trying to go.
And do you want to give an idea of what kind of prices are there? It's all up to you.
I'll give some insight. So I want to be able to help as many people as possible. And so I price the program based on need.
Okay.
And that allows me to help people who maybe can't afford the program at all. I have a few slots in the mentorship program I call pro bono, where there's a student, I have a lot of students who are very poor off, who don't have consistent access to technology. They don't have laptops, and internet access is shaky. These types of situations, these people have shown real technical skill, like they can whiteboard computer science problems. They just don't have a computer to write the code to test them out. Like really intelligent people who are stuck in a really poor situation. I help these people out for free. Obviously, they can't afford anything more. For people in a little bit better off situations, I take an understanding of what they're currently doing. Are they currently working as a software developer looking to become a freelancer? And what sort of target revenue can they expect to take as a freelancer? And I take the difference of what they're making and what they could make, or what I can help them make. And I price the program based on a fraction of that difference, so that developers can expect to make the full return of the cost of the program working with me within a certain amount of time. I like to price it at about a year currently. But essentially you can expect to make your money back working with me after a certain amount of time, about a year. I have a few of the Google Home devices too, so yeah, familiar with that. But yeah, that's
in case of the fraction of the gap between what they're earning today and in future, is that the money that they will pay once they get into the new job, or they still paying you on now?
Yeah, so the mentorship program currently, I accept payment up front.
Okay.
I am working on ways to try to provide training for payment after a person becomes a software developer, gains a salary, and then can sort of pay back the training. Okay. That actually becomes a little complex
Right. And
for international work. And I say that's because I could offer a program like that. I could apply for the licensing needed to do that for US based students when I'm based in the United States. But making that same offer to students in Africa, for example, or in India, or in Europe, there's a lot of complexities with the tax codes and the legalities of different things. And so I've not quite made my foray into that, offering training for a promised salary or a future salary. But that is definitely something I'm interested in exploring in the future as sort of this program gains momentum.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much for sharing all that information. So I see these are some of the things that I'm also trying to do with where I'm going. And for about a month now, I share, right? Last 1 year after joining the Ship 30 for 30 has been incredible. So I'm thinking in quarters. So I will explain that the second quarter is when I joined the Ship 30 for 30, and it completely changed how I think about the content. And they help me understand that one topic, one person, one outcome, 400 words. That's it. Before that, I was trying to create a world in one topic. Like, I'm gonna teach the entire task management in just one, and no wonder very less people was listening to that or reading to that. Say hello.
Hello.
At least come here. You're already in the picture.
Hello.
My daughter. I have a son who is in college, and then a daughter who is 6.
I've got a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, so I'm
congratulations.
Still in the young ages.
So that was my first second quarter. The third quarter is where I was able to apply some of the transferable skills that I have in my 20 years of career to writing. I'd never able to make the connection before, but once I made that connection, that as a leader in my corporate world, I have certain experience, whether it is giving training to the insider staff when we launched intranet for 80,000 people, right? We conducted all the training. I was the one who arranged those big plans, training plans, and the curriculum and all that. So anyway, I was able to make that realization, and in the fourth quarter, I was able to make some products such as quarterly planning workbook. I was listening to one of the things that you sharing, that how you create the curriculum, and I have an email course, and I think it's day 4 is when I suggest some of those things to them, like go find the need of the next job that you are trying to shoot for and compare and find the gaps. So I created that course as well, and a newsletter. And then my community, the Ship 30 for 30 community, keep pushing me for, yes, you got to a place, but now you have to go find that one person who you will be helping. So instead of helping entire world with goal setting, find that one person. So I selected web developer because that was my background. That's how I started. And then when I selected them, I started meeting with them. And my first realization was exactly how you were saying. They have ton of material, like hundreds of free websites. Those things was not exist when I started.
Yep.
But they have ton of experience, and I see 2 type of people. One is 0 to 1 year of experience, who are just starting. They're just some of these people have the material, and they want to get to their first job. And these people are experiencing the discipline and the ability to pick one of the course. Just pick one course and focus on that for a quarter, and then pick the next thing. So after I realized that, I started suggesting, start with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Forget everything else. Forget everything else that can distract you. Just focus on these three. And I would suggest W3 Web or free code website. Those are the two that I suggest. And like you said, there are people from Nigeria, Africa, and then India. Those are the people that I'm interacting with, who are reaching out to me, and I'm fascinated how many people go to these spaces, and then have courage to send you a DM, and then have courage to jump on call with you. So that's fascinating. Everything that I'm doing in this quarter is completely free. I'm not asking for any money, but in return, I'm learning the problem this set of people are facing. The second set of people are the one who is from like 3 years to 5 years of experience, and they are feeling stuck. And you said in your journey as well that there was a time at this HR payroll place that where you started feeling stuck. So that was my original thing, that once you are longer in the same role, you feel stuck. And that's where that course that I'm talking about, email course, is in the picture. And then finally, I also know at a very high level that the people from 0 to 1 year of experience are not the people who can pay you. They don't even have a job. The people from 3 to 5 years of experience are the people who have a much more clear direction, and not foundation, I would say, not the direction, the foundation, and they also have the money, and they are the one who you can kind of do a really custom help, take them to the next level. And I'm hoping that's the audience I will be able to create something for a paid program. And then the audience who are 0 to 1 year of experience, I will provide them everything for free. And hopefully once they have the job and then settle into the job, we will be in touch, and then I can help them going to the next level, and that they could join the paid program at that point.
Yeah, that sounds really good. One thing that you mentioned that I want to touch on is, you had been responsible for setting up training for large groups of people, and when you were starting to go into business, you had this idea that you got to find that one person and figure out what their problem is and solve that problem. When I was getting into this, I had looked around and looked at what other people were doing, and they were creating courses that covered the broadest topics. And I was like, I physically couldn't do that. I couldn't spend a lot of time creating something that I didn't know if it solved a problem for a particular person or not. And so that's why I started this whole journey with the mentorship program, was like, I need to talk to people. I need to figure out what their specific problems are, and I need to help them move forward.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of where I am now, is working with people one-on-one, trying to find patterns and problems. And, if there's a pattern that emerges where, hey, a course that doesn't exist, that could exist, would help a lot of people, that's when I would decide to build that course. So that's one thing I wanted to touch on.
And then I have somebody named Marcio. He was on my podcast. He helped course creator go from like 10,000, 50,000 sales to 6-figure in 6 months. He said 2 things. Number one is if you create a program that apply to everyone, people can buy. You're creating a program that people can buy for $10 on Udemy. And then the second thing he said, that unless you find that one problem that keeping people awake at 2 a.m., you can't create something that people will go after. So you have to find that 2 o'clock problem. What keeping that set of audience awake at 2 a.m., not p.m. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I actually have a habit of actually talking to people at 2 a.m. So I talk with people all over the world, and I'm always working. So I'm constantly talking, taking calls and learning from people. And sometimes that happens to be around 2 a.m. It's physically keeping them up at night. That's funny.
Nick, I have a feeling that together we can go in the journey. I'm so happy that we got connected, because looks like we are in the same journey, same path of creating something that will help this set of audience, this set of people. I will share everything that I will learn. I'm kind of 2 steps behind you. You're already way ahead with your practice, with your experience, and I'm behind you. So I will learn everything from you, and I will share everything I know and I will learn.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I agree. I think we're both on the same path. And one thing that I wanted to touch on with you just real quick is you mentioned sort of the 2 different categories. You have 0 to 1 year of experience, people who can't afford as much help and training sort of upfront. And then you have the 3 to 5 years experience who have a clearer idea of what they want and can afford training and customized help. One of the things that I'm looking to do in the near future is establish partnerships with some corporate partners. I already have a few who may be interested. Essentially having them pay up front to conduct the training for these people who are 0 to 1 years of experience, to bring them in and work with them at that stage. And essentially I am somewhat dedicated to the people who are very new to software development, who are really stuck and can't figure out where to go, and helping them find a foot in the door in the tech industry. And I think that by partnering with companies who are willing to work with less experienced software developers, I can build developers up to a point where they can be successful in a company like that. And that will get their foot in the door, and then they can build their careers from there. So I just wanted to touch on that too. Like I have a lot of ideas working in the future. And so I definitely want to keep in touch with you and the different types of projects that you're working on.
That's an excellent idea. That's definitely an excellent idea. Sorry, you were saying something.
I was going to say, speaking of, I saw that you were posting a bit on Twitter today, or maybe yesterday or recently, about an open source testimonials project that you've been working on. I was hoping to hear a little bit more about that from you.
That's great. Thank you for giving me opportunity to speak in my own podcast and add the plug. So as I was saying, that I was connected with these people for about a month, and 2 things that I realized that they are missing. Number 1 is the schedule, picking one thing and just focusing on that one thing, and follow through for a month or a quarter and learn that. That's missing. They're all distracted to go after shiny courses, shiny YouTube video, and not finishing them and switching to the next one. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is working on a project. They all can work on a project, but I think there is still a resistance around what to make. And I hear all these questions. Is it okay to make a clone of Netflix? Is it okay to create a clone of something exists in GitHub and do that project? So I realized those are the 2 things where I can help, consistency and a project. So that's how I started thinking about creating 5 ideas where I will give 5 ideas with requirements, with high level flow, high level meaning where somebody can go and see, all right, this is the idea, and it goes to the WBR, work breakdown and structure. It goes to the requirement, even the markup and design. And now, without looking at the code, I can implement in any technology or any way I want. So that's how I started. So I created a career jumpstart, and under that I will create 5 projects. This is the first one. Now, by doing this project, I'm trying to identify what are the minimum thing that I have to do for this group. And also by then, I got resonance from a couple of people who are interested. So I said, instead of giving just an idea, why not I create a team? And so I created a team of 10 people. I post that whoever is interested, and it's completely free. My service for this project is completely free for these people. So I got traction. Some of the people joined, and we just had Friday, we kick a start. And you see all the timeline, right? I'm creating the momentum for this. My hope is that by the time we finish March 31st, we will have the first version up and running. At a result, I will have all the resources like requirement documents, wireframe, and mock-up and all, plus high-level technical discussion that we are having. We had one this early in the morning today, the technology that we are selecting. So I'm hoping all that will become the content for the people who want to build it independently. And then I lost the thought. By March 31st, we will launch it. And then I will decide what the next quarter look like. I could convert this entire thing into a course, into a cohort where instead of 10, 50 people are joining. And then it could be a paid program where people are paying. Oh yeah, I remember what, so from idea to building this team, my goal is to give a working environment the way we work in the office, where we have a business analyst, we have the UX person, and then the team of people, and then you have idea to bounce around and also idea to defend. That if you're really passionate about Python in the backend, you have to convince the other person, and in a polite way, right? It's not you know how to market your idea, and then also understanding other person view that for example, in this project we are trying to keep things simple, and maybe it makes sense to just do Nest.js and not the Python. So all that, and some of those elements came. So I'm hoping that I will give that experience as well to working in a professional team environment. So yeah, that's how I started. That's the whole idea behind this project, and I'm trying to do two things. One is to provide the consistency for them to work, and then second, an idea that they can work, because I remember 20 years ago when I had my first interview, or second, I did not know that they will give me a job out of 300 people. But when I started talking passionately about the project that I've done, I not only got that job, but 2 more jobs. So I know that how a project can help. So that's kind of the story behind Nick. That's how I started. I'm just going all direction, wherever, like the water, wherever this thing is taking me, with an end goal is to help this 2 set of people and find what is that one problem that is holding them back, and what is one thing that I can do that has the tremendous benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely awesome project and awesome idea. Definitely looking forward to following and keeping track of how it goes.
I'm hoping that I will create so much momentum that before we finish, some companies, some recruiter will identify these guys and pick them for their company. So I'm completely okay to have that challenge that by March end, March mid, somebody will say that, oh, I got a job, and it's a full-time job, so I cannot help you anymore, or cannot work on this project anymore, and I have to find someone and have so I'm hoping this will be a happy ending for some of the people, and my team member like Roberto or Abdul Aziz, they're talented. I'm just amazed that how quickly companies will identify that there is a gold mine there and pick them.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, it definitely, I think people underestimate how much passion shows through, especially in an interview process when you're applying for a job. And hiring managers can really tell when a person is a good fit for the company. When applying to the healthcare tech company, I had spent a year up to that point studying cancer. I didn't know nothing about healthcare. I spent a year studying cancer research and what all these different companies are doing. And when I went to go to apply for this job, I was the top candidate because it was a software development role, but it was in a healthcare tech company. Everyone else was, either they worked in healthcare, but they weren't super passionate about it anymore. They're just looking for another job, or they don't know anything about healthcare and they're just a software developer. Because I had both of those pieces, I was really passionate about it. It really helps you stand out. And so that's one of the things I like to convey to sort of my audience and my students as well is, you really need to find something that you're really interested in and build on that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
I just noticed 5 for 2. Are you still okay for a few minutes?
I do need to run in a few minutes.
Okay, so let's jump into the final section. As a freelancer, especially as a course creator, I'm sure so many things are going on in your life. So I want to ask how a typical week look like for you, how a typical day look like for you.
Right. I was dreading this question. So my routine and my daily and weekly routine is not recommended. I consider myself a bit of a sprinter. So whenever I catch on to something that needs to get done, like a big project, or I need to write up some content, or I need to build a curriculum, and I need to prepare for meetings with students, I am laser focused, and I'll sit through and, I'll become conscious and it'll be 4 a.m. and
the entire night,
just straight through the night.
Wow.
Yeah. That happens probably once a week, just straight all-nighters, crash for the day. Wow. Just not great habits for me personally, but that's kind of how I work. So if I were to do the same amount of work and break it up over the week, I don't think my quality would be as good. And maybe this is just something that I need to work on personally, but I definitely am. There's a quote from the Batman movie where the Joker is like, I'm just like a dog who's chasing the mailman, and I don't know what to do when I get a hold of the mailman. I think of myself.
Oh my God, yes.
like I've caught wind of something that I want to grab, and I'm just gonna sit here at my desk or wherever I need to be and just get that thing until I get it, and then that's when I can sleep. So I would say I am tenacious and very focused. And sometimes that leads me to pulling all-nighters, and sometimes I can get it done quicker than that. But that's effectively my routine. And I work on lots of different projects, lots of different in the freelance context. Like companies can sometimes suddenly need something, and I have a good sense of what's urgent and what's not. And so I can say, well, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that in a few days. Yep. Sometimes a problem will be particularly interesting, and I'll be like, oh, I need to start on that now. And once I get started on it, I get hooked, I get very addicted, and I get through as much of it as I can. For that reason, I avoid alcohol and and all these different things too, these vices that can be dangerous, just because I know I have a pattern of really getting addicted to what I'm working on and what I'm doing, and I want to avoid getting addicted to anything too too bad for you.
Your mind.
Yeah, so that's a bit of my daily routine. Not one I recommend for almost anyone, but it's working for me for now.
And then how do you identify your goals? I go by quarterly goal, I was saying. So I try to identify quarterly. But in your case, how do you identify your goals, big goals?
My big goals are pretty simple. I would probably say I think about them in terms of years. I probably do annual planning.
Okay.
Obviously, I have a lot of short-term planning that goes on in between that, but I like to have ideas of where I want to be within a year.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you had any more specific questions about that.
Well, I would just ask if you're willing to share where you want to be in a year. Where do you see yourself for December 2023?
So right now I'm heavily exploring tech education, helping people become software developers. I'd really like to find a way to make this my full-time work, to sort of let go of some of the freelance projects and so forth. I'm looking for ways to make that happen this year. I have a lot of different avenues that I'm exploring to do that. There's the mentorship program is obviously doing fairly well. Not quite enough for me to let go of some of my freelance contracts. I'm looking for other ways to augment sort of that program, or to make it more popular, to get more people interested who are capable of affording the program. Some of that's going to be involved building courses, building training programs for people who are looking for specific types of problems. I'm also looking at building corporate sponsorships who can fund training for people who can't afford the programs, to sort of find new ways to take advantage of my skill set of helping people build skills and become job ready for a role in software development.
Nice. So there's a lot going on, right? There are a lot of different areas that you're working. How are you tracking them? What is your, are you listing them on a page or a Notion or some kind of system that, and how do you review that you're making progress around those?
Because I feel like my goals are simple enough. For the most part, I have a good idea in my mind whether or not I'm moving in the right direction or not, and I can get a sense of, is this the right direction? Is this the right project that I should be working on? As far as tracking my work, I do use Trello for big project things, and more of like a backlog to-do list of projects that need to come up eventually. But my primary to-do list is actually a sticky note that I keep on my monitor right here. And I have a sticky pad right there, and I update this probably every day or every other day. Just what did I get done? What did I need to do? And I just keep that updated, and that's just sort of staring at me all day. So it's kind of how I do my daily to-dos.
Well, I've seen if you can do a night out until 4 a.m., that indicate how much focus you have. So that's tremendous.
Absolutely.
I have to use Trello, or even this physical Trello. This is my physical Trello. Trello. Pomodoro.
Yes.
I have to keep it, and then I have to discipline myself that until this is done, I'm not checking Twitter, I'm not checking YouTube, I'm not doing anything else than just this, and 1 hour is harder.
Absolutely. There are some cases where I find myself struggling to get started on a specific task. It's something I'm dreading doing, even though I need to do it. I actually have this little clock here it's got this shape here, and it's got timers on the sides. Okay. And so if I set it down like this on the table, it starts a 5-minute timer, and you can see it starting to count down there.
Oh my God.
And then it beeps off whenever you got through 5 minutes. So if I need to get started on something, it's like, you know what, I'll start and I'll spend 5 minutes on this thing, and I'll flip the timer and I'll let it go. And for 5 minutes, I just do that task. And usually that's enough for me to catch and get that addiction of that, whatever I was trying to avoid going. So I do have that sort of Pomodoro technique in my.
That's awesome. I love it.
As all. Yeah.
Send me the link to that.
Yeah, I will.
We'll add it to the show note. This is fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right. I know you need to go. This is one of those interviews that where you have been speaking for an hour and you didn't realize that it's already an hour.
Yes.
Fantastic. I want to ask you for your message to audience who are, in my case, is the web developer, but you welcome to target anyone. What's your message for them? And then I will ask two follow-up questions. One is what's your suggestion for them, again, those two people, to start, like how to focus on learning and how to get their first job, and once they are in job, how to go to the next level, how to position themselves and make progress and go to the next level, like become a senior.
Absolutely. So My general message for the audience is, whatever you want to do, you can do it. You've just got to learn to cut out the things that are distracting you from that thing that you want to do. Focus is the number one answer to getting what you want out of your career, out of your life. You've got to focus on the specific thing that you want. You have to go after it. That would be my general message to the audience. You mentioned sort of what my recommendations are for people who are starting to learn to code, who want to become software developers, who want to become web developers, and want to grow their careers as web developers and programmers. If you want to learn to code, the first thing you've got to do is understand why you want to learn to code. Why do you want to become a software developer? You have to deeply understand why that is. Like, you want to take advantage of the tech industry. You want to build a nice life for yourself, for your family. You want to build stability in your life. The tech industry offers that. Once you've learned to code, you've got access to so many different opportunities and so many different industries and so many different there's just the options blow wide open. You don't always have to be a software developer. You can go from software developer into product managers. The tech industry as a whole is just waiting for talented people to help make software great and a reality. So my recommendation would be go learn, focus, get the skills that you need, and then apply. Like, you just got to apply and get the feedback and figure out where people are saying, no, well, you're not quite a good fit, and figure out what are the reasons for you that companies are considering you to not be a good fit. Figure out what those gaps are, learn some more skills, fill those gaps, and then go back at it again. And I truly think that anybody who wants it badly enough can become a software developer, can join the tech industry and fill whatever role that they find interesting.
And then the people who are already working in the industry for 3 years, 5 years, now they're feeling stuck. What's your message to them?
I would say that I can only speak from my own experience. I felt stuck in 3 to 5 years and I didn't know where to go. I reached out to a coach. This was a very controversial thing to do at the time that I was doing it. I didn't know anybody who used a coach. I didn't know anybody who was a coach. I just knew I had a really serious problem. It was keeping me up at 2 a.m. Like, I was sitting at my desk. I could be working on work, but I just can't find the motivation to do it. There's just no reason to do it. I will get the same amount of work done the next day and I'll have the same reward for it. Like, I was very stuck in that position. I didn't know who to reach out to. I ended up reaching out to a coach and found a project that I was really passionate about in helping with cancer research. And that just set me off on a whole different path and opened up all kinds of doors for me. And that I would recommend just finding someone who can help you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a coach, maybe a counselor, maybe a mental health professional. Figure out what's eating at you so that you can go to sleep before 2 a.m.
And this Cancer Institute, I didn't ask you that cancer research, was it software type engagement or you was in a clinical setting?
It was a software engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the work that I did was helping the company was working on technology to help identify potential candidates for clinical trial drugs. And so one of the major problems in this area is there's not a lot of communication between sort of the outskirts of different hospitals and doctors' offices. And so the work that I was doing was sort of building systems to allow these different doctors' offices and hospitals to communicate patient information into sort of a major hub for insurance companies and major hospitals and major health networks, so that all this data could come together and that we could sort of start to identify candidates who were ideal patients for a clinical trial drug.
Awesome. Nick, do you have a question for me?
I do not at the moment. I am looking forward to learning and seeing more about the portfolio, the open source testimonials project, and seeing how that goes and watching how the people grow in that program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick, for your time today. I enjoyed each and every moment from this conversation, and I hope whoever will watch will have the same experience and they would learn a lot from this.
Absolutely. It was really great talking to you as well, Vinod.
All right, sir. Bye for now.
Have a good one.